Hello, and welcome to GooseDrunks. Ooh. Today we are going to be reading Vampire Breath by RL Stine. I actually have not read this one. I'm very excited. The rules are really simple. Drink if it's stupid, drink if it's scary. New setup, same rules. To stick with the book's theme, because I'm nothing if not a person who loves a theme, I got these canned spicy Bloody Marys. I've never tried them before. I thought that they sounded both vile and vampire themed. So, let's do a quick real-time reaction for that. This thing promises to be 1, 2, 3, 4.5 chili peppers out of 5 on the spice level. And it's been chilling in my fridge for about 15 minutes, which is probably not cold enough considering we are in a heat wave right now. It's 1,000,000 degrees and I'm gonna melt in here. Let's try. Give it a try first. Honestly, that's a lot better than I was expecting it to be. It's gonna be tough to chug. It is 4.5 chili peppers out of 5. But give it a whirl. We'll give it a whirl. Oh yeah, I'm Bailey. Hi. Welcome to GooseDrunks, America's favorite drinking game. So let's just, without further ado, get started. It's been a minute. I'm tired of waiting. You're tired of waiting. Let's do this thing. It starts with dialogue. You knew it would. I knew it would, but it's still satisfying, you know? When a werewolf creeps up behind you at night, he steps so silently you can't hear a thing. You don't know the werewolf is there until you feel his hot, sour breath on the back of your neck. Ah. I mean, that would scare me if I were a kid, but also, why are we talking about werewolves? Hello, this is a vampire book. That's why I wore my vampire shirt. Duh. I leaned over and blew a big blast of hot air onto the back of Tyler Brown's neck. I love babysitting for Tyler. He scares so easily. I hope Tyler isn't one of our friends who's going to stick around like the annoying young child. Us being their babysitter adds a level of responsibility that I don't feel like I'm comfortable with. Everyone knows authority figures in Goosebumps books are useless. I don't want to be that authority figure. I hate being useless. It sucks. Okay, so he continues to tell Tyler a spooky, scary story. And then our friend chimes in, because apparently this is a team babysit. Tyler's that much of a handful. Stop it, Freddie. She's Southern. You knew this. You're really scaring him. My friend Cara Simonetti. I can't do in a funny Italian accent, but God, I wish I could.
Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball.
She flashed me a stern scowl from the chair across the room. Freddie, he's only 6, Cara reminded me. Look at him. He's shaking all over. Freddie doesn't give a fuck. That's how Freddie rolls. Freddie's the bad boy in the Babysitters Club. They leap at Tyler, and they're tickling him, and he's shouting, and he's crying, and he's laughing. All good babysitting stuff, you know? I tickled him until he couldn't breathe. Then I stopped. I'm a very good babysitter. Yes, stopping after they can't breathe anymore is genuinely the hallmark of a good babysitter. A very good babysitter. I can't decide if I like this anymore. Well, I've committed to 4 cans of it. Let's go. So then Freddie grabs Cara after she's like reminding Freddie that Tyler is only 6. However, wrestling with Cara is always a big mistake. She punched me in the stomach so hard I saw stars. Cara, that is not a wrestling move, but I do respect it. Fight dirty, girl. I like it. Cara seems cool. She completely knocks the wind out of Freddie, which is great. Good for Cara. That's feminism. Cara is tough. That's why she's my best friend. We're both tough. When the going gets tough, we never crumble. Say tough again, or I'll dare you. Ask anyone. Freddie Martinez and Cara Simonetti. 2 tough kids. There we go. I dared him, and he called me on it, so. It's getting chunkier as I'm drinking it. I don't like that. We've been friends ever since I beat her up in 4th grade. She tells everyone that she beat me up in 4th grade. No way. Want to know how tough we are? We like it when our teacher squeaks the chalk against the chalkboard. That's tough. I am so glad that the bullies you would find in any other Goosebumps book are the protagonists in this one. These are people I can empathize with. These are people I can root for. They have agency, they have drive, they have chutzpah. Oh, important to note, it's a full moon tonight. And so we demand to know if Tyler has seen the full moon. And Tyler's like, I'm 6. What the fuck's a moon? He says it. He says fuck. In Goosebumps, you're allowed to say fuck once. Otherwise, you get rated higher than PG-13, and then we're outside our target demo, baby. So we explain what happens with werewolves and full moons. I'm sure you know the gist of it, but essentially, they become werewolves. Kara's like, you're really scaring him. He's not going to sleep at all. I ignored her. And then the werewolf starts to walk, I whispered, leaning over Tyler. The werewolf walks through the forest, searching for a victim. Searching. Hungry. Walking. I hate walking. I'd be spooked out by this too. And then something genuinely spooky happens. I'm sure it's a fake out though, because it's chapter 1. Who knows though? RL's gone crazy in this one. He's gone wild. It's a vampire book and he's talking werewolves, the bullies are the protags. What next? I heard the footsteps in the living room. Heavy footsteps thudding over the rug. At first I thought I was imagining them, but Tyler heard them too. Kara turned her chair to the doorway. Tyler swallowed real hard. We all heard them now. A real one, I shrieked. It's a real werewolf. All 3 of us screamed. Dun, dun, dun. Oh yeah, we drink for cliffhangers. I forgot to mention, we always drink for cliffhangers. Because they're a remarkable combination of stupid and scary that I have no choice but to respect. Gimme a break, the werewolf said. Of course, it wasn't a real werewolf. It was Tyler's dad. Stupid. I knew it was a fake out, but still I'm disappointed. Why do I keep letting RL break my heart over and over and over again? What are the 3 of you doing? Mr. Brown asked, pulling off his overcoat. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, like Tyler. That's good to know. Scaring Tyler to death, Kara told him. Oh my god, Kara, some bully you are. Snitches get stitches, girl. Get it together. He rolled his eyes. Didn't you do that last time? We do it every time, I replied. Tyler loves it. I patted the kid on the back. You love it, right? I guess, he said in a tiny voice. You know how 6-year-olds sound. But also, geez, can this kid be a little better at babysitting? I kind of love the I'm very good at babysitting thing because that has been clearly demonstrated to be false bravado, which is another quality I love in a protagonist. Just unearned confidence. Excellent. Because sometimes the protagonists don't have any personality at all. This one, being a braggy little shit, is ideal. I love it. Tyler's mom stepped into the room, straightening her sweater. Were you telling werewolf stories to Tyler again, Freddie? Last time he had nightmares all night. And Tyler's like, I didn't. I'm cool, Mom. Mr. Brown handed Kara and me each a $5 bill. Oh, in that case, yeah, I get why they keep hiring these kids. It cost them $10 total. And these 2 were probably out for like 4 hours. That's a fucking steal. I mean, it's the 90s, so $10 could buy you property, but it's still pretty good. So Mr. Brown's like, thanks for babysitting. Do you want me to walk you home? I'm like, no way. I'm not a wimp. I just live across the street. Kara and Freddie say goodnight to the Browns, but Freddie doesn't really feel like going home yet, so he walks Kara home. She lives on the next block. That's convenient. I love how everyone lives in the same neighborhood in these books. It's always nice. It makes me feel nostalgic for a time when I lived within walking distance of friends. The full moon shone down on us. It appeared to follow us as we walked, floating low over the dark houses. We laughed about my werewolf story, and we laughed about how scared it made Tyler. We didn't know that it would be our turn to be scared next. Really scared. So, cut to Saturday afternoon. Kara comes over. They hurry down to the basement to play air hockey. Oh, this kid's got a cool basement. Okay, brag. Just dunking on the kids from the last book who all they have in their basement is a man being held captive in his underwear. Oh yeah, and some scary plants, I guess. But I think the most important thing down there was probably the human hostage. Okay, so he exposits that his parents a few years ago made the basement into a fun playroom. Didn't really need that background info, but appreciated, I guess. Gotta beat that word count, right, RL? They have a full-sized pool table and a beautiful old jukebox. And Mom and Dad filled the jukebox with old rock and roll records. I wouldn't call this a playroom. That just sounds like a fun place for Mom and Dad to get away from the bratty little kids for a little and just hang out. It just seems like a fun place to hang out with your adult friends, not necessarily. I would not let my children go down there, actually. I would be worried they'd mess up the records. Kara and Freddie like to spend hours playing air hockey with each other. They get really into it. So they're playing air hockey, and then Kara's just like, where are your parents? And Freddie's like, Ma, who cares, am I right? Parents are for suckers. She narrowed her eyes at me. You don't know where they went? Didn't they leave you a note or something? I made a face at her. They go out a lot. Bet they do. Look at their cool-ass basement. Probably to get away from you, Kara exclaimed. She laughed. That is funny, Kara. I had just come from karate class. Nerd. I took karate classes. It's okay. I'm allowed to say that. I stepped around the hockey table and made a few karate moves on her. One of my kicks accidentally landed on the back of her ankle, and she gets mad at him because obviously. When she bent over to rub her ankle, I shoved her into the wall. I meant it as a joke. Freddy's fun. I love both of these kids. I was just goofing, but I guess I don't know my own strength. She lost her balance and slammed hard into an antique china cabinet filled with old dishes. The dishes rattled and shook, but nothing broke. I laughed. I knew that Kara wasn't really hurt. I reached out to help pull her off the front of the cabinet, but she let out a roar of attack and came hurtling into me. Her shoulder caught me in the chest. Once again, I saw stars. And then she, grabs the hockey puck off the game table and, tries to throw it at him. And then he, wrestles the puck from her. So they're just play fighting for ages, and they're laughing so hard. And then Freddy winds up getting knocked back into the side of the tall china cabinet. He lands hard on it, and the whole cabinet topples over. He hears the crash of broken plates. Crash. A second later, I fell on top of the cabinet, sprawling helplessly on my back. My whole body hurt. We both stepped away from the fallen cabinet. Sorry, Kara murmured. I didn't mean to do that. I know, I said. These kids are cool. They're good friends. I swallowed hard, rubbing my aching shoulder. I think we're in major trouble. We both turned to check out the damage, and we both cried out in surprise when we saw what the old wooden cabinet had been hiding. Dun dun dun! What had it been hiding? Spicy. Chapter 3. A secret doorway! Oh my god, it was hiding a secret doorway. It was hiding a secret doorway. It was hiding a secret doorway. I've always dreamed of one day having a place that had a secret doorway. I can't, now I currently, when I was a kid, I was like, that's how I know I'll have made it, when I have a cabinet that opens up and it's like a secret passageway to something cool or whatever. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, you know how I'll know I've made it? If I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's how I'll know. But also, it'll have a secret doorway because I like to stay on brand. So they stare at the door. He describes what a door looks like. We know what doors look like, Freddy. I had no idea there was a door back there, and I was pretty sure that Mom and Dad didn't know about it either. Dude, are you sure they put that cabinet there? Where does this lead? Kara asked. I shrugged. Beats me. Maybe it's a closet or something. Mom and Dad never mentioned another room down here. I knocked on the door with my fist. Anyone in there? I called. Kara laughed. Wouldn't you be surprised if someone answered you? She exclaimed. I laughed too. It was a pretty funny idea. Kara turned the knob and tried to tug open the door. I guess some kids would hesitate. Some kids probably wouldn't be so eager to pull open a mysterious hidden door in their basement. Which kids? Point them to me. Name 5. Are you kidding? I can't think of a single kid that wouldn't open that door immediately. I would open that door immediately. Are you kidding? We're not wimps. We don't think about danger. We're tough. The door didn't open, though. That's very funny, actually. And the book ends right there, and it's over. It's getting spicier, and it's very warm in this closet. Is it locked? I asked. Kara shook her head. No, the cabinet's blocking the way. First typo of the book, by the way. There is no period or comma or anything. No, and then space, and then capital T. The cabinet's blocking the way. Way to go, RL. We drink for that one, too, because that's stupid. You have a professional book editor. They gave up on page 12. Too bland of a human to drink this spicy, spicy beverage. It is 4.5 chili peppers, you guys. Okay, so they decide they're going to move the cabinet so they can get through the door. So they work together. It's very heavy. It's full of broken dishes, so that makes sense. I think even if it were full of regular dishes, that would still be kind of a tough one for these two kids. They push and pull and slide it away from the doorway, and then they go to open the door again. The doorknob felt cool in my hand. It must be nice. I turned it and pulled open the wooden door. The door moved slowly. It was heavy, and the rusted hinges made an eerie squeak, squeak, as I strained to open it. Then, standing close together, Kara and I leaned into the doorway and peered inside. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I'm back, and I've switched to the fancy cider that I was saving to congratulate myself afterward for a job well done, because it was the only other cold alcohol that I have, and the first one was making me melt in this heat wave. I don't know why I thought a spicy drink was a good idea. It is 100 degrees out. Drinking because I'm stupid. So Freddy was expecting like a room, like somewhere to store some like coal for furnaces or whatever, but that is not what is behind the door. What is behind the door is a tunnel, a dark tunnel. Ooh, spooky. I'm picking this up and I'm holding it. I reached out and touched the wall. Stone. Cold stone.
You make me smile like the sun.
We need flashlights, Kara said softly, because it's the 90s. They don't just have them on their cell phones. Must suck to suck, Kara. Have you ever considered living in 2020? I don't recommend it, but we do have flashlights on our phones, so take that. I turned to Kara. You mean we're going into the tunnel? I asked. Silly question, of course we're going into the tunnel. If you find a hidden tunnel in your basement, what do? You go into it. He's right. He makes a very good point. This is the smartest thing any Goosebumps character has ever said. So they go through Freddy's dad's workbench, pulling open drawers, searching for a flashlight. That seems like a good place to look for one. That makes sense to me. Where could that tunnel lead? Kara asked. It has to lead somewhere, she replied. You can't just have a tunnel that goes nowhere. No, because that is called a well. The more you know. She shoved me. I shoved her back. Then I spotted a plastic flashlight at the bottom of a tool drawer. Kara and I both grabbed for it at the same time. We had another battle, a short one this time. I wrestled the flashlight away from her. These kids are very tactile. What's the big idea? She demanded. I saw this one first. I said, get your own. It is his house, to be fair, Kara. A few seconds later, she found another flashlight, so it worked out fine anyway. What a dumb waste of words. Okay, so they walk in and observe that it is very damp in the tunnel. The air is colder. God, I wish that were me. They shiver. They're startled by the change in temperature. Brr, Kara says. It's like a freezer. I raised my light and aimed it straight ahead. I can't see where the tunnel ends, I said. Only one way to find out, Kara replied. She's my kind of girl. That sounds fun. She's right. There is only one way to find out. So they scuffle again because just assume every other paragraph they're doing that. I think it's like their one character trait is they shove each other playfully because they're going to start dating in 3 years and then have a weird messy breakup a few years down the line when they graduate high school. Walking, pages and pages of walking. Kara observes that it is weird. She is correct. Kara's like, do you want to turn back? Freddy's like, no. That was 2 full pages and that's what happened. They come across another dark wooden door. Hey, what could it be? I grabbed the doorknob. Kara held me back. What if your parents get home? She asked. They'll be really worried. They won't know where you are. Have they considered going to the future and getting cell phones? Think about it. Well, if they come down to the basement, they'll see the cabinet on the floor, I replied, and they'll see the open door that leads into the tunnel, and they'll figure out what happened and probably follow us in here. That's actually extremely smart. This 12-year-old is sharp, baby. So they turn the knob and pull the door open. That door is heavy too, and it creaks eerily when it opens, just like the first door. It's a room, I whispered, a room at the end of the tunnel. Our lights danced over the smooth, dark walls, bare walls. We stepped side by side into the small square room. What's the big deal? It's empty, Kara said. It's just an empty room. No, it isn't, I replied softly. I aimed my flashlight at a large object on the floor in the middle of the room. We both stared straight ahead at it, stared at it in silence. What is it? Kara demanded. A coffin, I replied. Hey, dun dun dun, but also, have you never seen a coffin before? And I don't even mean IRL. Like, I'm just picturing a cartoon coffin here. Has she never seen an episode of Scooby-Doo? It's the 90s. That's literally the only thing on TV. I've never seen a coffin before, Kara murmured. Well, I guess there you go then, girl. Do your parents not let you watch TV, though? Neither have I confessed, except on TV. See, calling Kara's bullshit out. Kara, what do you watch in your spare time? What's keeping you entertained on a Saturday morning while you eat your Fruit Loops? So, other than the coffin, the room has 4 bare walls, smooth gray, no windows, no closet. One and only door leads back to the tunnel. Very creepy. It's just a hole at the end of a long tunnel where they keep their favorite dead body. Mom and Dad are fun, and I want to meet them. Freddy disagrees with me. Freddy thinks that Mom and Dad don't know anything about this. I took a deep breath and made my way closer to the coffin. Where are you going? Kara said sharply. I was worried for a second that I hadn't turned my microphone on. That would have sucked. Let's check it out, I replied. Let's take a look. I don't think we should, Kara says. I turned back to her. The light from my flashlight caught her face. I saw her chin quiver. Her dark eyes narrowed at the coffin. You're afraid? I demanded. I couldn't keep a grin from spreading over my face. Kara afraid of something? This was a moment to remember. To be fair, she did wait to a pretty extreme moment, my dude. No way, she insisted. I'm not afraid. I think maybe we should get your parents. Why? I asked. Why do we need my parents around to open up an old coffin? Makes a good point. You don't just go around opening coffins, she replied. She crossed her arms tightly in front of her. Well, if you won't help me, I'll do it myself, I declared. No, wait, Kara cried. I'm not scared. But this could be a big mistake. I bet it won't be. I bet with this much book left, it totally won't be. You're scared, I told her. You're scared. Big time. I'm not, she insisted. Here, I'll prove it to you. She handed me her flashlight. Then she grabbed the coffin lid with both hands and started to lift it open. Oh, it's really heavy. Help me. So the kids both work very, very hard to open up this coffin. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen. They push and push and push. A creaking sound as it starts to lift, and then they let go of the lid. I shut my eyes. I didn't really want to look inside, but I had to. I squinted down into the open coffin. Too dark, couldn't see a thing. But then Kara bent down and picked up the flashlights from the floor. She slipped mine into my hand. We aimed our lights into the coffin and stared inside. Dun dun dun. The coffin is empty. Or is it? My light locked on an object at the foot of the coffin, a spot of blue against the purple velvet. As I moved closer, it came into focus. A bottle. A blue glass bottle. What could it be? So they pick up a bottle. It's round and dark blue. Fits easily into Kara's hand. Kara shook it. It's empty, she said softly. An empty bottle inside an empty coffin. Like a poem. Definitely weird, I said. Who could have left it here? Hey, there's a label! Kara pointed to a tiny square of paper glued to the glass. He's just doing these tongue twisters on purpose. He knows I'm rusty. He says, bitch, you haven't read a sign in weeks. Practice. I'm trying, man. The tiny label had faded, old-fashioned looking letters on it. I squinted hard. Words had been rubbed until they were little more than smudges. I held my light steady and finally managed to read the words out loud. Vampire breath. Dun dun dun. Title drop. Fuck yeah. Title drop we drink. We drink for title drop. What could that be? Kara asked. What's vampire breath? It's exactly what it sounds like, Kara. Jeez. I mean, she doesn't even know what a coffin looks like. I can't expect much from her, I guess. She turned the bottle in her hands. She was looking for more information, like nutrition facts. Like, what do you want? But the label had only 2 words printed on it. Vampire breath. Thank you, RL, for the reminder. We drink again. They say it again. We drink again. I turned my light back into the coffin to see if we had missed something inside of it. I swept the light back and forth, and I leaned over the side and rubbed my hand over the purple velvet. It felt smooth and soft, just like me. He looks around the coffin. Nothing else is in there. Just the bottle. Then I looked back at Kara. She had tucked her flashlight under her arm, and she was twisting the glass stopper on top of the bottle. Hey, what are you doing? I cried. Opening it, she replied, but the top's stuck. I can't seem to. No, I shouted, don't. Her dark eyes flashed. She locked them on mine. Scared, Freddie? Yes, I mean, no, I stammered. I agree with you, Kara. We should wait for my parents to get home. We should show this to them. We can't just go around opening coffins and taking out bottles, and I gasped as she tugged at the stopper. I wasn't afraid or anything, obviously. I just didn't want to do anything stupid. Give me that, I shouted. I grabbed for the bottle. No way. She swung around to keep me from getting it, and then the bottle fell out of her hand. Who could have seen that coming? It was pretty well. You know what? Props were due. RL set that up pretty well. These kids have spent literally every other paragraph for the last 20 pages shoving, pushing, hitting, punching each other. And so when they do it now, it's not weird and out of character and some strange contrivance for them to then drop the bottle. It's just something they do. And frankly, that's more setup than I think he's ever given anything. So good job, RL, wherever you may be. He's not dead. I don't know why I looked up. Listen, I can criticize all I want, but if I don't take the time to acknowledge when stuff is good, then what good am I, you know? Okay, but it hit the floor, landed on its side, bounced once, didn't break. Sick. But then the glass top popped off. Less sick. Kara and I both stared down at the bottle, not breathing, waiting, wondering what would happen. Dun, dun, dun. This isn't ASMR. This is how he started the chapter. It took me a few seconds to figure out what was making that hissing sound. Probably the bottle, man. Then I saw a smoky green mist shooting up from the bottle. Yep, nailed it. The thick mist rose up like a geyser, chilly and wet. I felt it float against my face. Oh, I groaned when its sour smell reached my nose. Yuck, Kara cried, making a sick face. It stinks. The sickening fog swept around us. In seconds, the mist billowed all over the room. That would freak me out. And that's a fact from me to you. So they also can't see. The fog is blocking the light from their flashlights, worrying. They both agree it smells very bad, and they do so repeatedly for a full page. And then Freddy has the good sense to shove the stopper back into the top of the bottle. Sour fog swirled around us for a few seconds more. Then it lowered itself to the floor, fading away. Sour fog is actually what they used to call me in high school. They're both fine. They agree that it smelled bad. They start blaming each other for opening the bottle, as kids will do. They're having an argument about it. Ultimately, Kara's just like, Freddy, let's get out of here. I followed her to the door. Halfway across the room, I turned back, gazed at the coffin, and gasped. Kara, look, I whispered. Someone was lying in the coffin. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that's freaky. Oh, that's freaky, though. Oh, that's good. RL. Fuck yeah, man. Chapter 8. Kara screamed, yeah! We huddled together in the doorway, staring back into the dark room at the pale form in the coffin. Are you scared? Kara whispered. Who? Me? I choked out. I love this bit they're doing. Guys, this is scary. You're allowed to be scared of this, I would say. This seems valid. Freddy doesn't know that. He had to show her that he wasn't scared. So he takes a step toward the coffin and then another. They take a look inside the coffin and it's an old man. Thank God. One of the voices I know how to do. Much appreciated. But how did he get there? Kara whispered back. He wasn't there a second ago. How did he get there and who was he? Is he dead? Kara asked. I didn't answer. I crept up to the coffin and shone my light in. The man was old and completely bald. His skin stretched tight against his skull, smooth as a light bulb. His eyes were shut. His lips were as pale as his skin. Okay, I am not going to argue the semantics of that one. He had tiny white hands. Boom! Got him! Fucking got him. Tiny white hands. Thin as bones. I do take issue with thin as bones. Bones can be any amount of thick. A dinosaur skeleton at the Museum of Natural History is going to be as thin as bones, but it was still a T-Rex once. To be fair, T-Rexes also have tiny hands, so I shall continue. He was dressed in a black tuxedo, very old-fashioned looking, the stiff collar of his white shirt pressed up against his pale cheeks. His shiny black shoes were buttoned instead of laced. That sounds like a nightmare. Something froze me in place, staring at the pale, old face. Nice rhyme. At the old man lying so still, so silent in the purple coffin. And as I stared, the old man opened his eyes, blinked, and started to sit up. Dun, dun, dun! What a chapter! Chapter 9. I gasped and stumbled backward. The flashlight fell from my hand and clattered loudly to the floor. The sound made the old man turn in our direction. He groaned softly. My heart pounded so hard I thought it was about to explode through my shirt. I could see Kara's whole body shaking as she stood in front of me, training the light on the old man in the coffin. Where am I? The old man croaked. He shook his head. He appeared dazed. Where am I? What am I doing here? He squinted in the flashlight beam. His pale, bald head glowed in the light. Even his eyes were pale, sort of silvery. Ooh, sexy. He licked his white lips, less sexy. I'm so thirsty, he moaned in a hoarse whisper. I'm so terribly thirsty. He sat up slowly with a loud groan. As he pulled himself up, I saw that he wore a cape. Yes! That kind of vampire. A silky purple cape that matched the purple of the coffin. Yes, that kind of vampire. He licked his pale lips again. So thirsty. He blinked again and squinted at us. Where am I? He asked, staring hard at me with those eerie silver eyes. What room is this? Would that help? I don't know if what room is this is the question I would ask. What year is this? What city is this? What country is this even? What room is this? Whose house is this would be more helpful than what room is this? No wonder this guy wound up stuck in a coffin in a basement for a zillion years or however long. What if it was just a week? What if he's only been there for like a week? That's still a pretty long time, but it would be funny. It's my house, I replied. Groaning and muttering to himself, he lifted one leg over the coffin, then the other. He slid out onto the floor. He didn't make a sound when he landed. He seemed so light, as if he didn't weigh anything at all. A chill of fear froze the back of my neck. I tried to back up, but I was already pressed against the wall. I glanced at the open doorway. It seemed 100 miles away. Lots of rhymes happening. How did you get here? I cried. What are you doing in my basement? How did you get in that coffin? The questions burst out of me. Who are you? He stopped and scratched his bald head. For a moment he appeared to be struggling to remember who he was. Then he replied, I'm Count Nightwing. He nodded, as if reminding himself. Yes, I'm Count Nightwing. You sound like a butterfly. Kara and I both uttered gasps, and then we started talking at the same time. How did you get here? What do you want? Are you a vampire? Well, they got right to it, huh? Probably the context clues, I guess. The noise, he complained. Please speak softly. I've been asleep for so long. Are you a vampire? I asked softly. Yes, a vampire. Count Nightwing! He's like, yeah, obviously, look at me. He raised his arms and began to move toward us. And I'm so thirsty. I've been asleep for so long. And now I'm thirsty. And I must drink. Dun, dun, dun. End of chapter 9. The Count raised his arms and gripped his purple cape like a cartoon vampire. Very fucking good. The cape spread out behind him like wings, and he rose up into the air! Oh shit! I was never so frightened in all my life. I admit it. I don't scare easily, and neither does Carrie. Yes, we've established this. Thank you, Freddy. We've watched 100 vampire movies on TV. We laugh, and Kara's never seen a coffin before? Okay. We laugh at them. We think the idea of a guy with fangs who flies around drinking human blood is funny. We've never been the least bit scared, but those were movies. This was real life. Hey, I gasped and grabbed Kara's arm. Come on, I cried. Let's go. She didn't budge. She stared up at the pale face of the vampire. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Uh-oh, sounds like he might have hypnotized her. I grabbed her arm with both hands. I tried to drag her away, but she stood rooted to the floor, frozen like a statue. So thirsty, the old man croaked. Kara, snap out of it, I cried. Snap out of it, please. I pulled with all my strength and dragged her to the door. As we reached the tunnel, Kara blinked and shook her head. Letting out a startled cry, she tugged her arm free and started to run. We both burst out of the little room and ran through the curving tunnel. Our shoes clapped loudly on the hard stone floor. The noise echoed off the walls. It sounded as if 1,000 kids were running from the vampire. Would that were the case, your odds would be a lot better. Kara leaned forward, her arms stretched in front of her as she ran, which they actually call in the biz a reverse Naruto. Kara is a very fast runner. Faster than me. Uh-oh. As we turned again, her long legs were pumping hard, and she was pretty far ahead of me. I glanced back. Was the vampire following us? Yes, question asked and answered. He was close behind, floating near the ceiling, his cape flapping behind him. A yellow rectangle of light came into view up ahead. The door to my basement! If we can get to the basement, we'll be safe. Up ahead, the rectangle of light from the open doorway grew larger. Kara was running hard, uttering a low gasp with each step. I was several feet behind her now, running as fast as I could, struggling to catch up. Kara had nearly reached the door. Go, Kara, go, I thought. My chest felt about to burst, but I ran harder, desperate to catch up, to reach the door, to leap into the basement to safety. Oh, I cried out as I saw the rectangle of light start to grow smaller. The door, it's closing. No, Kara and I both wailed. The door slammed shut with a crash. Kara couldn't stop in time. She hit the door and bounced off, stunned. I grabbed her by the shoulders to steady her. Are you okay? She grabbed for the doorknob. Freddy, she murmured. Look. No doorknob. There was no knob on this side of the door. Uh-oh. With a frantic cry, I lowered my shoulder to the wooden door and heaved my body against it again and again. But nothing happened. Help! I shouted. Somebody help! Let us out! Too late. Count Nightwing had us trapped. He landed silently, his cape lowering around him. A thin smile spread over his pale face. His silvery eyes opened wide with excitement. His tongue darted back and forth over his caked, dry lips. Yuck. Run past him, Kara whispered in my ear. Run past him to the tunnel. Maybe we can keep him chasing after us and wear him out. But the vampire raised his cape to block our way. Could he read our minds? Probably not, but Kara did whisper that one out loud in an echoey tunnel. Holding his cape high, he stepped up to Kara. So thirsty, he murmured. Then he lowered his face to Kara's throat. Dun, dun, dun! Let her go, I pleaded. Stop. I couldn't see Kara at all. I could see only the vampire's cape and shoulders as he lowered his head to drink her blood. Please, I begged. I'll get something else to drink, but please let Kara go. To my surprise, Count Nightwing raised his head. He stood up straight and took a step back from Kara. Something is wrong, Count Nightwing said, shaking his head. He frowned. Something is terribly wrong. What could it be? I turned to Kara. Did he bite you? I choked out. Kara rubbed her neck. No, she whispered. Something is wrong, the vampire repeated. He raised a hand to his mouth. I watched him open his mouth and stick a finger inside. Gross. He shut his eyes and poked around in there. Further gross. His strange eyes bulged and his mouth dropped open. My fangs are gone! Oh my god. He got declawed. It's fucked up. I saw my chance. I pounded on the door to the basement with both fists. Mom, Dad, can you hear me? I shouted. Wait, just to be clear, Mom and Dad have a cool old record player, an air hockey table, a pool table, and a secret passageway that leads to a vampire in their basement. They sound like the coolest people ever. Count Nightwing paid no attention to me. My beautiful fangs! Gone! I'll starve! That's my vampire voice. Anyway, he's worried he's going to starve to death because his teeth are gone. We're safe, I whispered to Kara. How wrong could a person be? I don't know. How wrong? Dun dun dun! Alright, I'm back. And I've got a claw. So, chapter 12 starts, and Count Nightwing is still poking his whole fist into his mouth, talking about how doomed he is, which I'm sure sounds very funny, given the fact that there's a fist in his whole mouth. Freddy says, Sorry we can't help you. Now, will you open the door and let me back into my house? Count Nightwing rubbed his chin. He shut his eyes, thinking hard. Kara's like, well, we can't help you, so if you could just, like... And Count Nightwing's like, you can, though. He's like, hey, but you can help me. You will help me. You know how vampires sound? I took a deep breath. No, we won't. I told him, hell yeah, Freddy, put your fucking foot down. Heck yeah. He floated up over us. He moved his gaze from Kara to me. His silvery eyes suddenly appeared cold and icy. You will help me, he said softly. Both of you. If you ever hope to return to your homes again. What do we have to do? Kara stammered. The bottle of vampire breath, he said. Did you see it? Yeah, I replied. We found it in your coffin. Do you have it? Give it to me. He reached out a hand. No, Kara and I answered together. We didn't take it, I told him. They're like, yeah, we're dumb kids. We dropped it and ran. What are you talking about? The old vampire gasped. You what? Did you break it? Did you spill the vampire breath? It poured out, I replied. The room filled with smoke, and then we put the cap back on. We must find it, Count Nightwing declared. I must have that bottle. If there is a little bit of vampire breath left in the bottle, it will take me back to my time. He squinted at me. Your clothing, your hair, you two are not of my time, he said. I would argue that he is not of their time, but again, semantics. What year is this? I told him. What did you tell him? When was this published? 1996. All right, now we know. His mouth dropped open. A startled squeak escaped his throat. I've been asleep for over 100 years, he exclaimed. I must find the vampire breath. It will take me back in time to when I had my fangs. Damn, aging hits all of us really hard, I guess. So, essentially, if there's any vampire breath in the bottle, then he'll be able to teleport back like 100 years or so to where he had teeth. And then all problems are solved and everyone's happy. Hooray! And then the book's over. However, we're not even halfway through the book, so I don't know if that's going to happen for us today. He just keeps talking about how thirsty he is, and it's like, we get it. They're walking down the hallway to get to the coffin room. And then Count Nightwing's like, okay, so where's the bottle? Kara's like, I think Freddy dropped it into the coffin. And Count Nightwing's like, it's not there. Where is it? You have to find it. I'm very thirsty. And I get it. I'm like this too in the morning when I've just woken up after a long night. Kara's like, well, then it's somewhere on the floor. I don't know what you want from me. I'm 13. So they begin searching the floor. Kara's the one with the flashlight at this point, so it could be going better. And then Kara's like, there it is. Her beam of light froze at the base of the coffin. The blue bottle lay there on its side. I charged across the room, bent quickly, and picked up the vampire breath. Count Nightwing's eyes flashed in excitement. A pale smile spread over his face. Open it now, he ordered. I'll be gone, back to my time, to my beautiful castle. Goodbye, children, goodbye. He seems nice, actually. He's just thirsty. So Freddy's hands tremble. He grips the blue bottle tightly in his left hand and lowers his right hand to the glass stopper, grabs the stopper, pulls it off the bottle, and then nothing happens. Dun, dun, dun. And then I heard a whoosh. I nearly dropped the bottle as a green mist sprayed up through the top. Yes, I cried happily. The sickening odor made me gasp, then hold my breath, but I didn't care about the smell. They watched the fog thicken. Can't see the coffin in the room anymore. Can't see anything in front of him. Freddy shuts his eyes, prays for the fog to fade, for the mist to lower to the floor and disappear. Please, I thought, don't let Kara and me drown in this disgusting mist. A few seconds later, I opened my eyes. Darkness all around. I blinked several times. A square of pale yellow light glowed in the distance. Moonlight pouring in through a window. Window? There's no window in this room, I told myself. Spooky. I turned and saw Kara. He's gone, she murmured. Freddy, the vampire's gone. I squinted into the dim light. Where are we? I whispered. We're not in the same room, she said softly. This room's so big and... She stopped. Coffins, I cried. As my eyes adjusted to the light, the low, solid shapes formed out of the shadows, and I realized I was staring at 2 long, straight rows of coffins. The dark walls were covered with huge paintings. Even in the dim light, I could see that they were portraits of stern-faced men and women in formal, old-fashioned black clothes. I turned back to the rows of coffins and silently started to count them. There must be 24 coffins in this room, I whispered to Kara. Freddy, do you think... He took us with him, I murmured. These kids are quick on the uptake, actually. He was supposed to go back to his castle by himself. He said he would go and never see us again, but he took us with him, Kara. I'm sure he did. But he can't do that, she cried. He can't. I started to reply, but a sound made me stop. A creaking sound. I felt a chill sweep down my back as I heard another creaking, closer this time. Kara grabbed my arm. She heard it too. Freddy, look, she whispered. Coffins, I whispered. They were all creaking open. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, shit. So the coffin lids raised up slowly. Kara and I huddled together, unable to move. I heard low moans and groans as the vampires sat up. They pulled themselves up slowly. Their faces were yellow in the moonlight, and their eyes gleamed dully, a pale silver. Ow! Groans echoed off the high walls. Bones creaked and cracked. So that's what I sound like when I wake up, too. They're nothing special. They looked so old. Older than the oldest people you see on the street. Their skin appeared so thin, it was wrapped so tight you could see the bones underneath. Living skeletons. Legs thin as spider legs reached over the coffin sides. Kara and I finally moved. We backed into the deep shadows against the wall. So thirsty, I heard one of them whisper. They lowered themselves from their coffins, stretching and groaning. So thirsty, they chanted. Their voices were dry and raspy, as if their throats were sore, as if their voices were only air. All voices are only air. They were all dressed in black, formal black suits, white shirt collars stiff and high over their chins. Some of them wore long, shiny capes. If I were a vampire in ye olden times, I would definitely be like, listen, you guys can keep the fancy, stiff shirt, the stupid pants, the button shoes. The piece I would insist on is the cape. And so the fact that some of these apparently haven't insisted on capes is wild to me. They're very bad at being vampires. And then, standing in the aisle between the 2 rows of coffins, they began to flap their bony arms. Slowly at first. Their arms creaked as they pulled them up, then down. Up, then down, up, then down. They flapped their arms faster, groaning and grunting. The sound echoed off the walls and the high ceiling. And as Kara and I gaped in amazement, the sickly, groaning old men, they're all men, okay, began to shrink. Flapping arms became the flutter of black wings. The red eyes glowed from rodent-like faces. They're butterflies! Just kidding. They turned into bats. Statistically, 1 in 10 of them has rabies, and I just want everyone to know that. And then they turned their red eyes to Kara and me. Dun, dun, dun! I'm gonna drink twice, because cliffhanger, but also nothing scarier than rabies babies. So the bats are fluttering around over the open coffins. They were awake, ready to attack, ready to drink. And they all flutter up into the sky and fly out of the open window at the other end of the room. I watched them fade into the moonlight, shiny wings fluttering rapidly, the shrill hissing fading with them. I reapplied my lipstick. It looks better now. It's on my face now, so it's an improvement. I moved the Jigglypuff there because it feels more balanced based on how I'm sitting, and you can't argue with me. It's my video. Anyway, all the bats leave out the window. Whew, close one. We're okay, I told Kara. We're all alone. I heard a throat being cleared, so he spins around, and Count Nightwing is there, striding into the room, carrying a flaming torch. The torchlight flickered over his smooth face. His silvery eyes were wide with surprise. You do not belong here. The old vampire boomed. "You've no right to be here. This is my time and my castle." He floated off the floor, very menacing. "You brought us here," Kara protested angrily. She waved her finger at him, accusing him. "We didn't follow you." "She's right." I finally found my voice. "You promised us you would go away and leave us alone, but you brought us back to your castle with you, you asshole." Still floating a few feet above the floor, Count Nightwing held the torch in one hand and rubbed his frail-looking chin with the other. He murmured. Count Nightwing lowered himself silently to the floor. In the flickering torchlight, he suddenly looked weary. He did not sign up for babysitting duty tonight, for sure. The old vampire brushed back his cape. He shook his head. "I can't send you home," he whispered. "Why not?" I demanded. He sighed again. "I don't know how." "Huh?" Kara and I both gasped. "I don't know how to send you home," Count Nightwing repeated. "I'm a vampire, not a magician." He makes a really good point. "Then what are we gonna do?" Kara asked shrilly. "It's really no problem. No problem at all. As soon as I find my fangs, I'll drink your blood, and I'll turn you both into vampires. Dun dun dun. Honestly, not a bad offer. But don't turn kids into vampires. At least wait a little bit till they're teenagers, you know?"
That poor baby.
Poor baby.
Chapter 16. They yell at him they don't want to be vampires, they want to go home. He's like, "I need the vampire breath, this is all I got for you." The vampire is very focused on the fact that he needs a bottle of vampire breath. Apparently, because Kara's like, "Well, why?" The old vampire narrows his eyes at her. "When he is awake, a vampire needs vampire breath every day. We cannot live by blood alone." Well, that doesn't sound tenable to me. Where do you even get vampire breath? "We all live together here in my castle. We live here so we can be close to our supply of vampire breath. We each have our own bottles, and we guard them closely. I was down to my last bottle. I must find it." That's my vampire impression. I hope you like it. "What does it do for you?" I demanded. "Everything!" "Vampire breath does everything for a vampire. It allows us to travel in time. It can make us invisible, reappear again. It keeps our skin smooth and clear. It gives us energy. It helps us sleep. It keeps our bones from drying to powder. It freshens our breath." That's incredible. Has he considered just drinking water? How will it help you find your fangs? Kara demanded. I didn't say it in her accent, but hear me out. I'm drunk and warm. "Vampire breath restores the memory," the old vampire told her. "When you live for hundreds of years, it's hard to remember things. The vampire breath will help me remember where I put my fangs. The bottle, do you still have it?" "No," I said, "I don't have it." "But it won't do you any good," Kara cried. "We emptied it, remember? We emptied the whole bottle to get you back here." "That was in the future. 1980, the bottle's still full. Then why would him having the bottle make any fucking sense?" The old vampire started to pace again, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "I hid the bottle somewhere," he muttered. "I hid it so that the others couldn't find it and use it while I took my nap. But where? Where did I hide it? I must find it. I must." He spun away from us, his long purple cape swirling behind him. The orange torchlight bounced ahead of him as he floated toward the doorway. Where? He asked himself, shaking his head. A few seconds later, he vanished. Kara and I were left alone with the rows of coffins in the long room. Kara sighed unhappily. "I'm only 12, Kara moaned. "I'm not ready to die and then live forever." That's the line of the book. Thank you, Kara. "You know what we have to do, don't you?" I said softly. "We have to find the vampire breath before Count Nightwing does. If he finds it first and gets his fangs back, we're doomed." "I don't agree," Kara replied sharply. "I have a much better plan." "A better plan? What is it?" I demanded. I'm not even gonna dun that because that's not a cliffhanger. Chapter 17, Kara's like, "Here's my awesome plan. It's very, very good. We're gonna leave the castle and figure out a solution to this problem that isn't reliant on an old vampire who wants to eat us." And you know what the thing about Kara's plan is? I see what she's saying. Freddie has no problem arguing with her. He's like, "That's your plan? That's it?" She's like, "Yeah, we can maybe find help. If we stay here, we're doomed no matter what we do. Because if we stay here, we're in his power." It's like, yeah, you make a good point. Even Freddie is ultimately like, "Kara's probably right. Our only chance is to escape." "Come on," she whispered. She grabbed my hand and started to pull me along the rows of coffins. I held back. "Where are we going?" She pointed. "To the window." To the wall. They get to the window, and by the time they reach it, it's very far away. They realize the window is too tall to reach, and they're not going to be able to get up there even with a ladder. The only way to get through is to fly, I said softly. Come on, let's find the front door. Freddie, no. Kara pulled me back. We can't just go running down the halls. Count Nightwing will see us. Well, be careful, I said. Come on, Kara. We'll find a way out. Look at these kids go. They're rallying. I'm rooting for them. So they jog past all the empty coffins down this long fucking... I'm now just picturing an elementary school gym full of coffins. And it's like echoing weird, like people are playing dodgeball. So they go through the door into a long, dimly lit hallway, which seems to stretch on for miles. Dark wooden doors line both sides. The doors were all closed. So they're like, which way do we go? And then they're just like, it doesn't matter. We just gotta find a door that'll take us outside. And you know what? That's a good attitude to have. They pull up in the first door that they come across. They peer into a large square room filled with furniture. The furniture was all covered with white sheets, like ghosts. Kara pointed to the heavy black drapes that stretched over the far wall. There must be a window behind there. Let's check it out. We raced across the room. The drapes slid back. A dust-smeared window stood behind it. Great, I said. Not so great, Kara replied glumly. I saw instantly what she meant. The window had thick black bars across it. Ugh! With a disgusted groan, Kara shoved the drape back into place. So the next room they go into, there's no window. The next room has a big old desk with, like, books and stuff, and another window, but it's more bars. Can't get through that one either. Kara's like, this castle's like a prison, but there's gotta be a way out. I crept back into the long hall. I stopped when I heard a soft fluttering sound. Batwings? Were the vampires returning? Kara heard it too. Hurry, she whispered. We pushed open the next door and darted inside. I carefully closed the door behind us. Then I turned and saw that we had entered a big dining room. The long table filled most of the room. It was bare except for a tall candelabra in its center. Stubs of white candles poked up in the candelabra. Wax had dripped in small puddles onto the tabletop. The puddles were buried in a gray layer of dust. Honestly, it's sparse, but it's well described. I'll give him this one. No extra words there, but does paint a picture. Kara was already checking the window because she's smarter than we are. Another barred one, though. Sucks to suck. Every window has bars, and we can't keep walking through these halls. Someone will find us. Staring at the long, dust-covered dining room table, I had an idea. Vampires don't eat, I said. So what? Kara cried. So they probably never go in the kitchen, I continued. We'll be safe in the kitchen, and maybe there's a kitchen door. Kara does point out one obvious problem. There are 1,000 rooms in this creepy old castle. How will we even find the kitchen? I took her by the shoulders and guided her to the door. Well, this is the dining room, right? So maybe the kitchen is close to the dining room. Next door, push open, peek inside, not the kitchen. Next door, no kitchen, next door, no kitchen. Glance back, no Count Nightwing, so that's good too. Turned a corner, found ourselves in a narrower, darker hallway. Tried the first door, and yes, an old-fashioned kitchen with a wide fireplace hearth, a wood-burning stove, and blackened pots and pans hanging on the wall beside the hearth. My eyes glanced quickly around the room and landed at the broad kitchen window. No black drape, no bars. Kara cheers. They both dive for the window. Could we open it? We tried pushing it up from the bottom, but there were no handles, no place to grip the frame. Smash it, Kara cried. Smash the window open. I ran to the wall and pulled down a heavy metal skillet. I lugged it to the window, pulled back my arm, prepared to swing. Oh! I cried out when I heard a cough. Behind us. From the hallway. It's him, I whispered. It's Count Nightwing. Smash the window, Kara insisted. No, he'll hear us. He'll find us, I whispered back. I lowered the skillet to the floor and turned back to study the window. Look, I whispered to Kara, it pushes out, I think. I reached with both hands and pushed at the dust-smeared window pane. Leaned into it, pushed with all my strength. Slowly, the window slid out. With a groan, I pushed it open as far as it would go. A gust of cool night air swept over me. I grabbed Kara's hand and started to give her a boost. A noise behind us at the doorway made me jump. Hurry, I whispered, he's coming. My heart pounding, I pushed Kara up to the window. Then we both scrambled frantically out onto the ledge. Dun, dun, dun. That's very scary, because you know what's scary? It's heights. Chapter 18. Did he see us? Was he in the kitchen? Kara whispered. I don't know, I told her. I didn't see, but he was definitely in the hall. If he saw us, Kara started. A gust of wind drowned out the rest of her words. Huddled close beside Kara, I struggled to keep my balance on the narrow stone window ledge. Let's get going, I urged. We both turned and faced the window. Then, gripping the stone ledge with both hands, we began lowering our legs down the wall, lowering ourselves to the ground, lower and lower. Hey, I cried out when my feet didn't touch anything solid. A shaft of moonlight broke through the clouds. I looked down. and opened my mouth in a hoarse scream. My feet kicked the air. My hands gripped the ledge above me. I stared down into empty space. Far below, I could see dark, jagged rocks glowing dully in the moonlight. Far below. Miles below. Heights! We were on top of a cliff, Kara stammered. The castle, it's built on a cliff. The castle was built on a cliff. Thank you, RL. Now I'm drinking for the other reason. My arms started to ache. I could feel my hands slipping, losing their grip on the stone window ledge above me. Kara, I gasped. Dun dun dun! What if I just ended the video there? Chapter 19. My hands scraped the dark stones of the wall. I struggled to grab onto something, anything, but I was falling too fast. My feet kicked. I thrashed my arms. The wind rushed up at me as if trying to push me back up. I was falling too fast to hear my own scream, and then suddenly, I stopped. Stopped screaming. Stopped falling. A black shadow swept around me. I felt something sharp dig into my shoulders. Gripped inside this shadow, I felt myself being pulled up. I twisted my head back and saw 2 glowing red eyes. The hot breath poured from its dark, gaping mouth. It's going to eat me, I realized, failing to read a room. And then darkness surrounded me. I landed somewhere, hard on my feet with a loud thud. I opened my eyes and saw Kara. Her mouth dropped open in amazement. I spun toward the big open window to see the giant bat that had carried me back to the kitchen. Its wings flapped against the floor. The red eyes glowed angrily from its big, ugly face. Damn, you don't have to be insulting. It just saved your life. Also, I am picturing that photo I saw that one time of that bat that was the size of a human man. I raised my eyes to the enormous bat. It started to shrink. It tucked itself inside its black wings, wrapped the wings around its body. The wings melted into a cape, a purple cape, and as the cape swept back, Count Nightwing appeared! Yes, our hero! You made a serious mistake, young man, he scolded sternly. See, he was just hungry before. He's just a nice old dude who can't help his current circumstances. He didn't intend to bring us here. Did you think you could fly? You're not ready yet. He's gonna teach us to be vampires. That's so exciting. When you turn into a vampire, you can fly every night. But don't try to escape again. It's a waste of time. And next time I won't catch you. He's just scolding us. He's being the best babysitter he can be, given the circumstances. Don't just stand there, he ordered. Come help me find the vampire breath. I know it's somewhere in this wing of the castle. He's still very thirsty. He still needs to find his fangs, and he still needs to find the vampire breath. There's a long checklist that we haven't even started to tick off yet. But he's certain that the vampire breath is somewhere nearby, so at least that's comforting. So they're in the hallway, and our old vampire friend is just checking rooms and stuff. Kara checks in with us to be like, you still look kind of shaky. Can't imagine why. We're like, yeah, I fell off a cliff. Kara shook her head. It isn't going to be easy to escape. We can't escape, I replied. The castle was built up here on top of the cliff to keep anyone from escaping. Yeah. Kids, sometimes they're smart, sometimes they're dumb, sometimes it happens at the same time. We can't give up, Freddy. We have to keep trying. As soon as he finds his fangs, he's going to turn us into vampires. That's why my plan's the best, I insisted. We have to find the bottle of vampire breath before he does. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll find it first. But what will we do with it once we have it? Kara demanded. Just keep it from him, I declared. I pulled her into the next room. We both gasped when we saw the coffins. Dozens of them, all lined up perfectly in 4 rows, the length of the room, all open. Another vampire bedroom. That's so many vampires! That's so many vampires. Kara's right. It is so creepy, Freddy. I'm gonna drink. Maybe we should search for the vampire breath in another room, I suggested, away from the coffins. But then my eye fell on something. A coffin against the wall. A closed coffin. Yeah, sometimes people oversleep. Sometimes some of us just want to wake up at a relaxed 2 p.m., okay? Kara, look at that, I whispered, pointing. All the other coffins were left open. That's the only one with a closed lid, do you think? Kara squinted at the closed coffin. Weird, she murmured. Very weird. They're like hypothesizing what it could be, and I just am gonna skip to where they open it, because that's what I care about. RL spends a page making sure he reaches his word count, and then, without saying another word, Kara grabbed one handle, I grabbed the other, and slowly, we began to lift the coffin lid. Chapter 20. The lid was solid and heavy. Kara and I leaned into it and pushed. Finally, it dropped to the other side of the coffin. I turned to the door to make sure Count Nightwing hadn't heard. No sign of him. I pulled myself up straight and peered into the open coffin. The inside was covered with dark green felt. It reminded me of the pool table in our basement. I sighed. I wondered if I'd ever see my basement again. Damn, that's gonna be such a sick bachelor pad if the kids both die. Oh my god, they're gonna have the best ragers down in that basement, just as long as they move the cabinet back in place. Although, honestly, without the vampire in it, is basically just a sex room. But they looked and it was empty. Boo, just an empty coffin. Boo. But then, thank goodness, he sees a pocket. Freddy sees a pocket in the side of the coffin, like the pockets on the side of suitcases, and it bulged out a little from the side. What could it be? I reached into the pocket and pulled out a blue glass bottle. Kara, look, I cried. The vampire breath. A smile broke out over Kara's face. Her dark eyes flashed with excitement. Excellent, she exclaimed. Excellent. Now we gotta hide it from Count Nightwing, somewhere he'll never find it. Kara rushed up beside me. She took the bottle from my hand. When we opened it before, it took us back in time, she said excitedly. Maybe if we open it up now, it'll take us forward in time. I finished the thought for her. Yes, Count Nightwing said it can be used for time travel. Maybe if we open it and think real hard about where we want to go, it'll take us home to my basement. We both stared at the blue bottle. Should we hide it and keep it away from the old vampire to stop him from getting back his fangs? Or should we open it up and hope that the smelly mist would carry us home? What is this, a give yourself goosebumps? You tell me what we're supposed to do, RL. Kara gripped the bottle tightly in one hand. She raised her other hand to the glass stopper on the top. Go ahead. Do it, I whispered. This is very intense. They are 12 years old. She squeezed the stopper again and started to pull. But she stopped once again and gasped. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. I heard a soft footstep, and I realized that we were no longer alone. Dun, dun, dun! Fuck. This book is so intense. Time travel, vampires, falling off of cliffs. I spun around, expecting to find Count Nightwing. Oh, I cried out when a girl stepped out of the shadows. Her pale blue eyes were wide with shock. I think she was as surprised to see us as we were to see her, and I'm just grateful I didn't waste my British accent on someone who wouldn't appreciate it. As she stepped toward us, I saw that she had ringlets of blonde curls that fell past her shoulders. So just fucking Kirsten Dunst, I guess.
I want some more.
She's about our age, I realized, but definitely from a different time. She stopped several coffins away. Who are you? She asked. What are you doing here? Oh, we don't really know, I stammered. Who are you? Kara demanded. The girl didn't answer right away. Keeping her distance, she continued to study us with her pale blue eyes. Gwendolyn, she said finally. My name is Gwendolyn. Are you one of them? Gwendolyn shuddered. No, she answered quickly. Her mouth curled into an angry sneer. No, I hate them, she declared. I hate them all. I bet she is a vampire and she hates them because they turned her into a vampire when she was a child. That's my theory. Don't make fun of me if I'm wrong. Kara shifted her weight tensely. I could see she was really nervous. She handed the bottle of vampire breath to me. I lowered it to my side out of Gwendolyn's sight. Do you live here? Kara asked Gwendolyn. Are you related to Count Nightwing? Gwendolyn's sneer grew more bitter. No, she choked out. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm a prisoner here. I'm only 12, but they treat me as a slave. She let the tears run down her pale cheeks. Do you know what they force me to do? Clean and polish their coffins night and day. Yuck, Kara murmured. She's right. That sounds like a lot of cleaning. But I mean, what else was there to do in 1880 when you were 12 years old? You know, Gwendolyn, have some perspective, right? Gwendolyn sighed. She brushed her blonde ringlets off her face and wiped away a tear. There are a dozen coffin rooms in this castle, all filled with row after row of coffins, and I must keep them smooth and shiny and clean for the vampires. That's not how you would say that. For the vampires. There we go. Got it in one. What if you refuse? I asked. What if you tell Count Nightwing you won't do it anymore? Gwendolyn uttered a dry laugh. Then he'll turn me into a vampire. She shuddered again. I'd rather clean coffins. I felt so bad for her. I didn't know what to say. We don't belong here, Kara told her, glancing to the door. Count Nightwing brought us here by accident. Can you help us? Is there any way for us to escape? Gwendolyn lowered her gaze to the floor, thinking hard. I don't trust Gwendolyn. There may be a way, she said finally, but we'll have to be very careful. If he catches us... Gwendolyn glanced to the front of the room. Follow me, she whispered. Hurry, it's almost dawn. If the vampires return and see you, it will be too late. They will pounce on you and drink your blood. You'll never see daylight again. That's how she said it. She led us into the hall. Clinging to the wall, we stopped and looked in both directions. No sign of Count Nightwing, but we knew he was nearby. This way, Gwendolyn whispered. So they keep following her. Gas lamps, narrow stairway, walls twisting, turning. Gwendolyn's walking. We're in a narrow tunnel, single file, blah, 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 deeper into the castle. Kara's like, is this really the way out? And Gwendolyn's like, yes, Please trust me. I'm not suspicious at all. Follow me. There's a secret exit through the cellar. Up ahead of us, Gwendolyn's blonde hair glowed like a torch leading the way. So the tunnel empties into a huge dark cellar, and Gwendolyn pulls a flaming torch off the wall and carries it high in front of her to light the way. She's like, follow me. It's like, yeah, of course, that's what we're doing. The flickering torch cast a narrow path of light through the cellar. Gwendolyn led us deeper into the darkness. This is creepy, though, and I assume Gwendolyn's a vampire, so I'm going to drink, because I also feel like I haven't done it in a minute, and I deserve to. Can't believe we're stuck in 1880. This is bullshit. Somewhere in the distance, I heard water dripping. Kara and I huddled close together, trying to stay in the light of the torch. Gwendolyn stopped so suddenly, we nearly walked into her. She turned slowly. The torchlight revealed a smile on her face. Are we here? Kara demanded. Where is the door? Yes, we're here, Gwendolyn replied in a whisper. I have you all to myself. Her smile grew wider. Her eyes were half shut. We won't be interrupted by Count Nightwing or the others. Yay! I'm so thirsty, Gwendolyn said. So thirsty. As she lowered the torch, I saw long, pointed fangs slide down her chin. She grabbed me by the shoulders, and I felt the scratch of her fangs against my throat. Dun dun dun! I was fucking right, I knew it. You never trust a blonde chick with ringlets. No, I screamed. I grabbed her arms and shoved her off of me. Shoved. No, get away from me, I howled. Her eyes flashed excitedly. So thirsty, she said. Get away, I pleaded. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm such a good voice actor. Hire me for your next project. You want to escape, don't you? She teased. Well, this is the only way. She tossed back her head and opened her mouth wide. Then she dove for me. No way, I cried. Cool. I ducked away. Her long curly hair slapped against my face, and I staggered back. She prepared to attack again. Freddy, the vampire breath, Kara cried. Use the vampire breath. Maybe it'll take us to the future. I'd forgotten I held it in my hand. I raised the vampire breath high. Gwendolyn gasped and drew back in fear. I grabbed the top and started to pull. No, please, Gwendolyn begged. Put that down. Don't open it. Please don't open it. I squeezed the glass top and pulled open the bottle. Dun, dun, dun. Nothing happened. All three of us stared at the open blue bottle in my hand. Takes a few seconds, I told Kara. Remember? In my basement. Took a few seconds and then came whooshing out. We all stared in tense silence. A few seconds went by, then a few more seconds. Gwendolyn broke the silence with a gleeful laugh. It's empty, she declared through her laughter. The castle is filled with empties. There's a whole room of them over there. She pointed into the darkness. I raised the bottle to my face and squinted inside. Too dark to see anything, but Gwendolyn was right. It was definitely empty. I let it fall to the floor. Gwendolyn's like, sucks. Back to business. And goes to, take another bite. She's like, bitch, I'm so thirsty. When suddenly you hear, I'm thirsty too! Who could it be? The light bounced toward us, and inside it I saw the angry face of Count Nightwing. He floated to us, his eyes narrowed at Gwendolyn. Her mouth dropped open. She raised both hands in front of her as if to shield herself. Gwendolyn, what are you doing down here with my prisoners? Count Nightwing demanded angrily. He didn't give her a chance to reply. He floated up off the floor, over her. His cape floated out like bat wings. His silvery eyes locked on hers, and he opened his mouth in a furious hiss. Gwendolyn's fangs glistened wetly in the torchlight. Gross. She tossed back her blonde ringlets and, still shielding herself with both hands, hissed up at the old vampire. Oh wow, I thought, they're going to fight. I'm glad that even in the midst of this, he's like, cool, vampire fight, awesome. Which, you know what? Take your pleasure where you can. Am I right? That's 2020's motto. You take your pleasure where you can. So they're hissing, and then Kara's like, listen, this is, our chance, so let's fucking skedaddle. And Kara was right. While the two vampires hissed at each other, we had to try to get away. So, Freddy grabs Gwendolyn's torch off of the floor, and they run through the dark basement. Finally, I saw an open door. Kara and I burst through the door. I glanced back. I saw Count Nightwing floating high off the floor, his cape swirling behind him. Gwendolyn hissed up at him weakly from the cellar floor. No time to watch their fight, as cool as it probably was, though. Fuck. I would have stuck around because I'm an idiot. But I would have. I followed Kara into the room. Where are we? I whispered. I raised the torch in front of us. Wow, Kara murmured as the shelves against the wall came into light. I don't believe it. We had found the room of empty vampire breath bottles that Gwendolyn had told us all about. Shelves covered every wall from floor to ceiling, and each shelf was crammed with blue bottles. Stacks and stacks of blue glass bottles. There must be 1,000,000 empty bottles in here, I whispered. And one not empty one, I'm guessing. This isn't helping us escape, Kara whispered. Escape? A hoarse voice rasped from the doorway. Count Nightwing moved quickly into the room. There's no need to talk of escape, he said, narrowing his strange silver eyes at Kara and then at me. There's no escape from Count Nightwing's castle. He's like, come on, how many times do I have to fucking explain this to you? I built it on a cliff. How much more clear can I be? No escaping. He tosses back his bald head and utters a frightening hiss. Another one. Drink for another hiss. Fuck it. At this point, the amount of hissing is stupid, so there we go. I felt myself pushed back deeper into the room. He floated higher, the cape billowed around him. He looked like a frail insect inside a purple cocoon, but I could feel his power pushing me back, holding me, pushing me, and then suddenly, I felt him let go. What? He dropped heavily to the floor, his eyes flashed. He snapped his bony fingers. A thin-lipped smile creased his face. Yes, he hissed. Drink for hiss. I remember now. Dun dun dun! This is where I hid my full bottle of vampire breath, he told us. I hid it here, in the empties room. Nailed it, crushed it. I'm so smart. I know how old vampires think. Which I'm very proud of. I knew the others would never look here. It's fun that they're like, I don't know what to do with these empties. I guess let's just put them in the closet forever. And at no point were they like, let's invent recycling. Are these bottles not reusable? Are you serious? Where do you even harvest vampire breath from? Aren't you the vampires? So he dives for the nearest shelf and begins pawing through the bottles like, which one? Which one? Thousands of bottles and only one is full. Bottles crash on the floor. They shatter. They're in a race now. They have to find the full bottle first. It's just like the Emperor's New Groove. Push them aside one by one. My fingers move quickly over the glass tops. I squinted hard in dim light, searching for the only full bottle. Count Nightwing's like, hey, what are you doing? Stop it! And they're just like, what? Fuck you, old man. And then my hand landed on it. I sucked in a deep breath when I realized it felt heavier than the others. My hand trembled as I carefully lifted it out from the others. Yes, definitely felt heavy. Yes, it was still sealed shut. Fucking yes. Yes. I found it, I cried, for some reason, jumping to my feet. Kara, look, I've got it. I raised the full bottle up to show it to her, and Count Nightwing grabbed it from my hand because we're very stupid. Thank you, he said. Dun dun dun. That's 2 drinks. That's for stupid and for cliffhang. So the old vampire raises the bottle and reaches to open it. Freddy screams no and leaps at him and catches him by surprise, shoves his shoulder into his chest. Hand it to me, Freddy! You've got to! I'm like, alright, fuck. Maybe say please or something, I don't know. Maybe that will work. Maybe compulsion isn't necessary. Just a little politeness, some consideration. Hand it to me, he insisted. He reached for the bottle. Monkey in the middle, I heard Kara call. Oh my god, they're 2 bullies. Monkey in the middle is their, like, go-to fucking move. Oh my god, I cannot believe them being shitty-ass bullies came back. This is so good, you guys. I'm hyped for this. I'm gonna drink because I'm so excited. So, they play Monkey in the Middle with this vampire, and it's fucking funny. They play Monkey in the Middle for literally 2.5 pages. Nope. 3 pages. And then Count Nightwing catches the bottle in both hands. As he sailed slowly back to the floor, a pleased smile spread over his face. I win, he said softly. I win. It helps to be able to fly. He raised the bottle in front of him. No, don't, I begged. His smile grew even wider. He reached out and pulled the top off the bottle. Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 26. All 3 of us froze. A few seconds passed, and a few more seconds. Nothing's happening. Count Nightwing raises the bottle to his face and tilts to see inside, but it apparently is also empty. Who could have seen that coming? Kara and I exchanged glances. I suddenly knew what had happened. In my wild scramble to pick up the bottle, I grabbed the wrong one off the shelf. Fucking did the smart thing on accident. That's true genius right there. I have it, I cried, because he didn't learn from his mistakes even once. I have it. The old vampire let out a furious growl. He leaped at me. Kara, catch, I screamed. I heaved the bottle to her, but Count Nightwing swung his arm. His hand slapped the bottle in midair. I gasped. As the bottle sailed into the wall, it bounced off, crashed to the floor, cracked open, and the sour, dark mist poured up into the room. Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 27. The penultimate chapter. Let's go. I tried to hold my breath, but it didn't help. The foul odor of the rising fog seemed to seep into my skin. Across the room, I saw Kara cup a hand tightly over her nose and mouth. My eyes started to burn. I closed them, felt hot tears seep down my cheeks. When I opened my eyes, I couldn't see Kara anymore. The fog had grown too thick. I could see Count Nightwing's purple cape, dark inside the mist. Then it disappeared too. And I was alone. Alone inside a thick, billowing cloud. I dropped to my knees, covered my face with both hands. When I finally opened my burning eyes, the fog was fading. Count Nightwing's purple cape came back into view as the mist lowered itself to the floor. I saw Kara across the room, shielding her face with one arm. The room came back into focus, and I realized I was staring at an air hockey game. What? I blinked several times. A pool table stood in the center of the room. Pool table? Air hockey? Kara came running over to me, her dark eyes flashing with excitement. "We're back, Freddie," she cried happily. "We're back in your basement." "Yes," I cheered, pumping both fists in the air. I staggered across the room and hugged the air hockey game, and then I kissed the wall. I actually kissed the wall! Woohoo! No! I turned to see Count Nightwing toss back his head in a long, angry wail. He swirled his cape behind him, then clasped his hands into tight fists. "No, this can't be happening!" he cried hoarsely. Kara and I huddled together as the vampire advanced on us. Where's the vampire breath? Where's the blue bottle? My eyes glanced quickly around the room. No sign of it. "Didn't come back with us," Kara announced. "Sucks to suck." The old vampire tossed back his head in another angry wail. Then, raising his cape even higher, he swooped down to attack us. Kara and I staggered back against the pool table. The vampire moved quickly, wrapping his heavy purple cape around us both. We were trapped, nowhere to move. Then suddenly, the cape slid off. Count Nightwing took a step back. His mouth dropped open in surprise. I followed his gaze and saw Mom and Dad hurrying into the basement. "What? Mom!" I cried. "Dad! It's a vampire! He's a real vampire!" Dun, dun, dun. Count Nightwing squinted at my parents, his mouth still open in shock. He locked a stare on my mom. "Cynthia, what are you doing here?" Mom smiled at him. "Daddy." What do moms sound like? "Daddy, you finally woke up," she exclaimed. That's what our mom sounds like. I've decided. It's the only voice I can do right now, and it's not even a real voice. Let's keep going. "Huh?" Kara and I both gasped in shock. Mom rushed forward and threw her arms around the old vampire. She hugged him for a long time. "Daddy, you've been napping down here for at least 100 years, she said. "We didn't know whether to wake you or let you sleep." Dad came rushing over too, a big smile on his face. He rested a hand on my shoulder. "Did you meet our son, Freddie?" he asked. "This is Freddie, your grandson." "Grandson? Me? I'm the vampire's grandson?" The vampire's grandson sounds like a weird novel. Count Nightwing stared down at me, shaking his head. I could see that he was as confused as I was. "Cynthia!" he said to my mom. "Cynthia, my fangs! I've lost my fangs!" Mom slid her arm around the vampire's waist. "Daddy, your fangs aren't lost," she told him. "They're in the glass in the bathroom, right where you left them." "Here, over here," Dad said. He led the way to the little bathroom in the corner that we never used. Why would they introduce 2 new characters in the final 3 pages of this book? Don't they know how drunk I am? These monsters. A few seconds later, Count Nightwing stepped out, adjusting the fangs over his gums with both of his thumbs. "There, that's better," he said. "Now let's fly out of here. I'm so thirsty. It's been 100 years. Mom and Dad turned to me. "We'll be home soon," Dad said. "Make yourself a sandwich upstairs, okay? Make one for Kara, too." They're really cool. They're vampires, and they have a pool table? Fuck, how do I meet this couple? "But if you and Mom are vampires, am I a vampire, too?" I asked in a trembling voice. "Of course," Mom replied, "but you're way too young to get your fangs, Freddie. You have to wait at least another 100 years. I wanted to ask a million more questions, but the 3 of them began to flap their arms up and down. In seconds, they changed into bats and flew out the basement window. That just can't be how stuff works. It just can't. It just can't. I stared at the window for a long while, trying to calm down. When I started to feel more normal, I turned to Kara. "Wow," she said, shaking her head. "Correct, Kara. Wow, indeed." "I don't believe it either," I replied softly. She grinned at me. "I knew you were weird, Freddie. I didn't know you were that weird." I wanted to laugh at that. I was still too shocked to laugh or cry or scream or do anything. I really think Mom and Dad could have broken the news to me in a little better way. But I guess they didn't think it was any big deal. The door of the bathroom stood open. I I stepped inside. "We never use this bathroom," I muttered. "We use the one across the basement." Kara followed me in. The mirrored door to the medicine chest was partly open. She pulled it open the rest of the way. The shelves were jammed with all kinds of jars and bottles, strange medicines and tubes of ointments. I saw a green glass bottle on the top shelf. "What's that?" I wondered. I stretched my hand up to pull it down, but Kara grabbed it first. "Give it back," I cried. I shoved her. She shoved me back. She turned the glass bottle in her hand and read the name on the label to me. Werewolf Sweat. "Kara, put it back," I said. "Really, put it back. Leave it alone, Kara. Don't open it. Don't." She pretended to pull off the top. "No," I cried. I swiped at it, tried to pull it from her hand, but I missed and tugged off the top instead. "Whoa!" Kara cried out as a yellow liquid squirted over both of us. Fucking gross, dude. I rolled both my eyes. "Now what?" I cried. "Now what do you think is going to happen?" Kara replied. Dun dun dun! End of book! Fucking hell yeah. Oh my god. Honestly, that one was great. There's just no way around it. I know I very frequently have complaints. That one was so good. The fact that vampires showed up right away, literally chapter 7. Time travel in an already established vampire situation? Genius. And then the fact that they teased the werewolf thing at the beginning and then at the end brought it back. RL, this is the best one I've ever read, dude. What the fuck, dude? You could do this every time, man. I love it. But I have to wrap up now because I'm so tired and I'm so warm. I'm melting. You guys, I'm so sorry again about such a long break. Those of you who have been following me on social media know what happened. I'm not really going to go into it right now. It's a total bummer after such a fucking rad book. I love it. Patreon peeps, I'm going to put up a post to see what our next book is going to be. So please check that out once I do. Those of you who are maybe new to the channel, maybe some of my people who were watching before and then I left and they were like, "Where'd she go?" It's, it's no big deal. But I am streaming now on Twitch at Balien vs. Predator, and I'm streaming every day but Saturdays. So you can come check that out sometime. We can just chill and we can hang out, and sometimes I'll drink there too, and sometimes I'll just play normal video games like the pro gamer I am. But either way, I just want to say a big thank you to every single person on my Patreon, all my subscribers, all the people who follow and subscribe on my Twitch, the people who follow me on Twitter. Literally just, you're all the coolest people, and I'm so glad you guys wanted another one of these. I was so ready to make one, and it was just nice knowing that there were people who were interested in it when I did make it. And on that unusually heartwarming note, I'm gonna go. You're all the bee's knees. This book was so great. Stay spooky out there, my friends. Peace out.